So I think all of you have already indicated which stories you would prefer. At the moment, I've got 3 votes for Flame and 2 for Train. Computer's not too happy. Oh, now I've closed my whole internet. Doing well, doing really well.
That's all right. She makes us feel better, doesn't she?
Does.
Realise that Barry and Ann don't have real tea. They look like candles. They're cheating.
Yeah. Well, I've got my candle here, but I've actually forgotten to light it, so also doing well. You can all wave. Oh, wave hello. People might be able to actually see us.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, we're going to tell some stories. It's looking like Flame is the one now, which is actually the longer one. So what I might do is I might do a couple of little poem things first, so that we just kind of round out this first little bit of time. And then we'll start a new bit and we'll have a very quick little break before we do the actual story, and hopefully that will allow it to all just be working fresh and be all right.
Yeah.
So I've got some little sets of pictures to show you while I'm reading some poems. So does anyone have a preference for a spring poem or an autumn poem? So I've got a new one for each.
Autumn here.
You'd like the one to go with your weather?
Yes.
Yeah? To go with your
One of each.
One of each. Okay, well, yeah, neither of them is hugely long because I'm not really a long poem person. So I'm going to see if I can pop my screen sharing on and play you a little slideshow of pictures to go with the autumn one. Okay, so this is called Spirit. Standing on boards of trees once hewn, lean upon the railing and sense the ancient life the wood beneath your hands still speaks. As younger valiant saplings tower, cup resting on the rail, drink in the steam, like ghosts rising to meet the young tree's leaves. And somewhere it will come to rest, in silver baubles, hanging shining droplets to shimmer in trance, then fall free. Like sails blown free from weary masts, down come the colours, twisting, spinning as they fall. Confetti rain, fire to rest upon the dew-tipped grass blades, soft snowbanks of crisp, paper-thin flame. Fingertips are toasted on the porcelain, and steam breathed deep, with every clear-minded sip. A cloud of breath drifts up, and like a curtain, shields the scene. To toast and coals the mind feels drawn, and hurry in leaf beds sleeps.
Beautiful.
So you'd like a spring one, and then we'll have a little break before the story so that we can hopefully reset, and
Good.
we'll see if we can get it to start with a nice fresh storytelling. Okay, so this is called Snow in the Blossom, and it's about what happened last week with the snow coming down after a few days of springy weather. Spring came in bursts, as though stuttering. Yet nature could not be deterred any longer. The sun of a day warmed the hidden life, and blossom pressed on, coated like a sugared cake with the hard kiss of snow a day later. Not alone the blossoms, daffodils shooting forth swayed in icy wind, above a green so bright, so white it hardly earned the name. We wondered if these beautiful sights might be deadly, the flowers to be withered in the melt, and yet, a week on, a bright daffodil sits, in a cup on my table, and I only picked it this morning, from where it grew in the waves of sunny petals. On a green so green, the white fantasy land of a week ago is a memory hard to conjure. I can hear lots of Google Chat messages coming through, so I'm wondering whether
That was good.
getting some
Very good.
blossoms. Okay, Emily says it's doing better now. You hear more smoothly. The visual is still laggy, but the sound is better. Okay.
Good.
All right, so with the current votes I've got, we're going to be reading Flame, which is quite a long one. It goes actually for about 19 minutes when I timed it. So what we'll do is we'll have a little tea break before I start that one. And then I'll read it and we can have a bit of a talk about it and the inspiration for it and things. So it's a better one for me in terms of talking about the process of it, because there was a lot more planning of this one, whereas actually the other one, Train, was one of those stories that I just wrote it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit harder to discuss the process and stuff, but it is interesting because actually I write like that quite a lot. And I just try hard to write stories where I am doing some pre-planning and other things behind the scenes that I can show you when I write stories for this purpose. But a lot of the time I do just kind of go and see what happens. And usually that works a lot better if I have a pen in my hand and real hard copy paper to write on, and it doesn't happen so much if I'm typing. But yes, so we'll have Flame, and that one there was lots of kind of planning out of, because I wanted to have a group of friends in the story, all of whom had some kind of sadness or problem fixed collectively through shared light. So that's what I've done. So if you would like to grab another cuppa quickly or anything like that, or top up your first one, and I will light my candle that I've forgotten to light and things like that, and then we'll come back in a couple of minutes with a fresh Zoom link for you to click, and we'll reopen this. Okay, alright, so we're ready for story. I'm just going to pop it back on. Alright, we should be back, and we're ready for our story, which is going to be the one called Flame. This is quite a long one, so feel free to really settle in with your cup of tea.
Yeah.
And this one was based on Mum's request of a story about shared light against the darkness. So I kind of wondered how I could do that, and I decided that maybe some friends during a power outage could come up with various ways to solve each other's problems. When Ellie arrived, Tess was shouting at the oven. Ellie could hear her through the front screen door, where a few early fallen golden leaves from the white cedar were blowing about the striped doormat. Carefully, Ellie removed her shoes and propped her slightly damp umbrella in the iron rack on the porch, tucking her shoes nearby. As she did so, she saw Feng pedaling up the hill, his normally spiked up brown hair slicked down by the same shower that had dampened her umbrella. She waved as he dismounted and tactfully waited for him to reach the porch so that she wouldn't have to raise her voice, before murmuring, "I think Tess might be having a bit of a bad day. She was shouting at her cooking just now, so maybe we go in quietly and try to be helpful." Feng leaned the bike up against the porch wall. "Yeah, she's not the only one." Ellie sighed and looked concerned. "Still the writer's block?" she asked, going over to hug him hello, now that his hands were free. Feng nodded. "Ever since that argument with Rick, I just can't get inspired. The magazine will want something from me in the next few days, and so far I have nothing." Ellie grimaced sympathetically and patted his shoulder. "Ah!" went Tess from inside. Feng and Ellie looked at one another and went in to see what could be done for the cooking. Tess was throwing open windows and turning on fans in a mad rush of panic, lest the unit's highly sensitive smoke alarm react to some boiled-over pasta on the stove. Meanwhile, the pasta was threatening to erupt all over again. Feng, an enthusiastic cook, ran to the stove and began remedying the food, while Ellie joined the window-opening party. "Long day!" she bellowed over all the fans, smiling gently at Tess. Tess shoved the last of the lounge area windows out as far as it would go. "I got told my contract won't be renewed after July," Tess shouted back, a gust of wind coming in the window and lifting up her wild black curls like a curtain. She stood back from the window and began crossly squishing her hair into a ponytail. Ellie smoothed down the curtains at her window and went over to her. "I guess no one's having a good day today," she sighed, hugging her friend. "But you're awesome, Tess. You'll be able to find something new." Tess gave a doubtful grunt. "Hi, by the way," she said, giving Ellie a squeeze. They both chuckled wryly, broke apart and wandered into the kitchen. A silhouette against the low golden syrup sun through the glass in the front door heralded the arrival of Anya, to the accompaniment of thudding sounds as she shed what they knew were a pair of neat black office shoes with a solid wedge heel. When she opened the door, the four friends just looked at each other for a moment. Anya had a tight-faced, shiny-eyed look about her, her simple, fashionable jumper and jeans somehow askew. A gust of wind and a few of the white cedar leaves came in with her, and she stooped to flick the leaves back outside. "Oh, just in time to add your bad day news to our bad day stew pot," said Tess, with a little wry smile. She and Ellie went over and group hugged Anya, stretching up to reach her properly, even with the heels off. Anya was a textbook model and towered gracefully over them both. Feng set the pasta colander aside and came over to join them. "What's your story of the day then, Anya?" he asked. Anya shrugged and sighed as they all made their way to sit at the table. "It's silly, really. I went to that other chess club across town, and it's just not the same. The people there have their little clique already. I don't think I really want to go back, but I just wish Sam and the others didn't have to leave. It's not going to be the same without our team. I can't imagine not playing anymore, but maybe that's what will happen." Feng shook his head. "That's not silly at all. Chess is a huge part of your life. It's like how Rick thought he could ask me to stop going to yoga." "Huh!" There was a general group exclamation. "I don't think so," laughed Ellie. "Yoga is sacred, 'cause it's how you met us." Like, literally. Not just 'cause of that, but it's a big part of it. There was a pause. "Hey, Anya, maybe you could teach chess to a bunch of new people," said Tess. "Like, us even. I know we'd suck, so it wouldn't be like being on your amazing team, but it would be something." Anya looked a bit skeptical, but she nodded. "We can try if you like." Feng went back to the stove and stirred the pasta sauce. "You should video your attempt to teach us. It would either be good comedy or a good demonstration for other people wanting to learn," he suggested. Anya beamed at this. There was no question that her camera had come with her. If there was one thing that Anya liked as much as chess, it was making videos. Tess was helping Feng to spoon pasta and sauce into bowls, when there was a dramatic clap of thunder. The friends all looked up at once as the rain began to thunder on the roof, and the lights flickered once and went out. Everyone was still for a moment. "Seriously?" said Ellie. "At least the food is cooked," added Anya. "I guess I'm not making us an exciting dessert," complained Feng. "Feng, this is my place. You've done far too much of the cooking already," Tess exclaimed. She looked around at the quickly darkening room. "I'll find some candles and torches." Shortly afterwards, the room was full of little bright lights, and everyone was eating, a gentle blanket of calm descending as the daylight ebbed away. After a little quiet, companionable munching, Feng looked up. "Ellie, you never told us what was bothering you. You said we all had bad days, but everyone else told their story, and you didn't." Ellie put down her fork and looked down at the table, twisting one hand into her ginger curls. Well, you know how my great aunt died recently? Auntie Louise, who I used to go away in the caravan with sometimes. There were little nods and sympathetic mms. Well, I talked to Grandpa today, and he told me that he's going to sell the caravan, like, really soon, in the next few weeks or so. And I just kind of feel as though a big piece of our lives and our memories is being given away. I would have liked to take my own kids away in that caravan one day and tell them the stories. But I think Grandpa needs the money for it, so that won't happen now. Everyone sat sadly for a moment, unsure what to say to this. Then Anya looked up suddenly. Ellie, would you tell us some caravan stories tonight? I could film you, and that way you could keep them. Ellie's eyes widened. Won't it be too dark? Anya looked around. Not if we bring the candles close to you. That would just be atmospheric, right? It was. Once everyone had finished eating, they cleared the table and nearby shelves near Ellie, and filled up the space with lights. A flickering campfire-like glow was cast over her, that danced in her eyes and made a halo in her already flame-like hair. The furniture and the dirty dishes receded into the shadows, and Tess, Anya and Feng pulled their chairs in close, like children. I was 13 the first time Auntie Louise asked to take me caravanning, Ellie began. I was so excited to go on a holiday with a different grown-up. It seemed like such a rite of passage. Auntie Louise said that we should go right out into the bush, use the caravan to stay somewhere wild and try to see emus and watch the rivers at night for platypi. We packed all our camping food and toilet paper and books to read and games to play and a big tank of fresh rainwater. It seemed like we were set to disappear into the wilderness. But then Auntie Louise realised that we didn't have very much fuel, so we had to drive into the nearest town to get some, this huge caravan in tow. Auntie Louise hated being in busy places with the caravan. All the way up the main road she was panicking, getting mad and shouting at cars, and so of course we missed the service station, and she had to go into a shopping centre car park to turn around. Well, it seemed like this car park was designed to trap you. We went around and around and around. Must have looked like some kind of parade float. All the openings said no exit or came out on the wrong side of the road only. So after we've been going around several times, Auntie Louise spots a quiet moment in the traffic and she thinks, what the heck, I'll go out the no exit. So finally, we're out on the road, facing the right way to go back to the servo. And I look at the road and I realise we're on the tram line. Of course, Auntie Louise is really terrified, and people on the other side of the road are waving madly at us and pointing at the tracks. So she just gives up. She pulls off into the nearest car park and gets out of the car, and it's a cinema car park. So Auntie Louise and I went into the cinema and we watched 3 movies, came out at 10:30 at night when no one was about, went out of whichever exit we pleased, and went to the servo in peace. And that, my friends, is how you take a caravan to the servo. Though, it isn't how you go bush camping. We did that afterwards. Ellie grinned and the others laughed and clapped. Anya recorded several more of these tales, the candlelight dancing over Ellie's hands as they fluttered about in expression. The darkness grew more intense, and the candles and lamps more dramatic. When finally Ellie ran out of stories, she turned to Anya and said, "Isn't it time you tried to educate us about chess?" The dishes were hurriedly scrubbed, and the rest of the table cleared, and Anya produced a convenient travel chess set out of her car. The chess lesson did turn out to be more comedy than useful tutorial. Ellie kept getting confused about the different ways the pieces moved. Is it the horsey or the tower that goes sideways? Eventually things fell into chaos when Anya said, No one else can move like the knight does. and Tess leapt to her feet and began doing a song and dance drama. "No one can move like you can, Sir Knight. Ooh, it's the way you move. Oh, but you move me so much." Anya looked on bemusedly. "Perhaps I should teach someone else." "Well, maybe. But we'll always try if you need us," Anya smiled. "I know." She folded her arms. "I think it's your turn, Tess. How can we make you feel better?" Tess lost her silly grin and sat down. "I don't know. It's not like you can make work extend my contract." Said Fang. "Maybe not. But perhaps we can help you plan what to do next. Things normally seem less scary to me if I have a plan for getting through them." Tess pulled a face and drew her knees up. "I'm not sure what I'd be able to do. How will my skills be useful outside of the bank?" Fang smiled. "You have a lot of good qualities that aren't specific to your job." He looked at the others. "I'm sure we could all list a few." Ellie stood up. "I have an idea. Is it okay if we light all the spare candles?" Tess looked confused. "I guess so." Ellie gathered up all the spare candles and torches and brought them closer. Then she picked up one of the lit candles and held it in both hands. When Tess and I were in high school, before we even really knew what yoga was, we used to be in a swimming squad together. One day, we were in a relay for a carnival, and I got all the way to the diving block before I realised I'd lost my goggles. So I was looking across the pool at Tess, madly signalling, "Oh no, no goggles." I think the other people looking probably thought, "Huh, an owl?" But Tess knew what I was saying. She also knew that I absolutely couldn't swim without them because I had contact lenses in. So when she swam her leg of the race, she pulled her goggles off at my end of the pool and threw them up to me and swam back without any. She must have done the return lap with her eyes mostly shut because she ended up in the lane next door and bumped into someone and we got disqualified. But that isn't the point. The point is, Tess was thinking about me and trying to help even though it made her swim more difficult. Tess is selfless and caring. Let this candle represent selflessness. Ellie placed the candle she was holding on the table in front of Tess, picked up another candle and handed it to Fang. Fang understood. He told about how Tess had been so determined when they first started yoga that she'd persisted one night for a full hour after everyone else had given up on a balancing pose, until she finally had managed what they all thought was beyond their abilities. He added a candle for determination. Soon Tess was surrounded by flickering candle flames, the room a dancing shadow show of bright lights moving in the darkness. As they all sat in this space, which felt almost as if it were full of fireflies, Feng's eyes lit up as though the flames had somehow climbed inside him. "That's it! This is it! I'm going to write this story!" He looked wildly at Tess. "Can I borrow your computer?" Tess gave Feng her laptop, and she and Ellie helped Anya to take video and pictures of the flames and shimmering reflections, and their own hands and sparkling eyes. When they were finished, Anya gifted Feng a glowing set of pictures to accompany his piece. "Isn't it odd how these little lights are stronger against the darkness than big bright neon bulbs?" she said, cupping her hand around a flame. Its warmth travelled gently across her palm, shading her skin with sunshine yellow. "I don't think it's so strange," said Ellie. "These little lights are powerful because they're together, and because they have real warmth, like the fires our ancestors sat around. It's almost like we're not only together with each other, but with all of them too." She put her arm around Tess, and they wandered over to Anya and gathered around Feng as he typed. "If you're feeling like the world is dark and unfriendly, if events get you down and you feel alone, or you want to connect and care more, find the people who will light the small lights with you. If you want to do this with us, in this area, pick up a light and come outside at 9:30 p.m. on Sunday, April 1st. Instead of fooling each other for April Fools, let's create an ocean of light and random acts of kindness. He took a deep breath and hit save. Do you think people will do it? Asked Tess. I don't know, Fang mused. But if they do, I guess we'll be meeting a few more of our neighbours. Assuming people read this magazine. Well, we can share it, right? Ellie pressed. The following Sunday, Fang, Ellie and Anya arrived at Tessa's house again. Thankfully this time not to the sound of cooking gone wrong. Fang had boxes of biscuits and sushi and toffee apples. I'm nervous, he admitted. What if no one read it at all? Ellie grinned. Then we'll be eating your treats and enjoying ourselves for weeks, she laughed. If that's the worst that can happen, it can't be that bad, can it? Fang had to admit this was true, and he would still be proud of the piece he'd written. After an evening of pizza and wine, Tess had decided to refrain from cooking. The four friends each took a candle and ventured outside into the street with a basket of spares and some of the food. The night was chilly and slightly drizzly, and by 9:35 Fang was putting the lids on the containers as a few dark red and brown autumn leaves drifted down the filling roadside gutter, and Tess went in for an umbrella. The sky was full of big clouds that made it hard to see the stars when Ellie looked up. Suddenly, Anya gripped Fang's arm and pointed. Down the hill, two small lights could be seen, bobbing on the ocean of the unlit road. Behind them, more lights appeared, and the sounds of voices carried lightly in the dripping air. Doors thudded shut, and matches fizzed, now on the other side as well. Feet pattered back and forth, and somewhere, a voice began to sing, and others joined it. Arm in arm, the four friends made their way up and down the street, offering toffee apples and smiles, greeting pets, learning names. This little back street that had always been quiet, full of people who'd seen each other but never met, was filled for the first time with song and chatter, waves of tiny lights, moving around like ebbing tides of hope. The end.
Okay.
And here's my candle.
Yeah.
I need a bit of tea.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Very nice. So tell us about some of the characters and
Yeah,
where they
okay.
came from. The young man's name was Feng, was it?
Thing. Yeah. I wanted just some more interesting names. So I did just a bit of name research about different names I could give people, so they don't all sound like they come from the exact same cultural background. And
Michael and Roger.
Yeah, there wasn't any Susies in there.
there were no
Right.
Susies, no. Yeah, so the characters. And so I actually started with what their problem was going to be, because I knew that I wanted them all to come with something that they need help with, and then from there to have their problem solved by the others. So the first thing I did was I took each of the names and I came up with why they were sad or what they were worried about. So I did Ellie's first, but I didn't know what was going to be in the caravan adventures. That one I sort of wrote as I went along.
That was magnificent. It's such a shame Rosanna wasn't here.
Would she have liked that, would she?
Oh, well, one of Rosanna's granddaughters put up on Facebook a picture of Rosanna's parking, which was like across 3 parking bays.
Yeah, because you can't really put...
Not fitting in any of the lines.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be... She might have thought there was some basis on a story about her or something, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
She didn't have a car. She was just in a car.
It was a normal car, and she parked across 3 parking bays.
Yeah.
Hello? Ah.
She doesn't park often. She's in a little car.
You wouldn't do that, would you?
Yeah, so it took me a little bit of deciding what it was that Anya did as a team that that she'd lost her team for. And I chose the chess because that would be something very hard to teach the others. That would be suitable terrible stumbles with and things.
Yes. I can relate to that.
And then I went from there to kind of plan out what was going to happen, and I didn't do a lot of details kind of about the characters in terms of how I did with... I think there might be... Maybe they didn't see that or something, because they're asking me like how I'm doing and things.
Yeah, no, it's all old.
Yeah, I think it's just really delayed, like everything's coming through a lot after when it should be coming through in every respect, so they probably haven't finished hearing the story. Anyway, they'll hear this when it gets to it, I suppose. Yeah, and I looked for kind of things to bring a little bit of amusement into it, because I know that part of what really worked with creeping was that there were relatable kind of amusing parts. And so I knew that Ellie had to have something funny in her caravan stories, and Anya was when she taught the chess, something was going to be a bit silly and kind of thing. And apart from that, with each of the characters, I sort of worked out a vague sense of what they were like and what they did. So I'll read you those. Ellie, family-oriented, sporty, has in common with these friends a love of modern board games and a yoga class they met at. She has red curly hair and fair skin, and wears overalls and casuals, and she's a pharmacist. Tess is a finance officer. She's quiet and good at maths, likes to knit and go camping, has curly, frizzy black hair, olive skin, dark, mysterious eyes, and a smart dress sense that is sensible. Anya is a model. She loves chess and her friends, makeup and filming things. She has straight blonde hair, tan skin, and a firm jaw, and wears very fashionable clothes, but they're simple. And Feng is a writer and journalist. He likes the outdoors and cooking, has spiky dark brown straight hair, cut so it's longer on top, and he wears jeans and smart shirts. Okay. So we're coming to the last 10 minutes of this Zoom call. So I suppose, does anyone have any quick sort of things they want to know, or comments, or bits and pieces? Or would you rather sort of have a tea break now, have a think about that? And
I'd like to say that thing about the power failure is just a really interesting thing, because I think if you're sitting under neon lights or very well lit rooms, there's a kind of distance, and I think when you have all those tiny little lights in the middle of a table or something, it is that final thing of gathering like around a fire with your back to the darkness, and it does draw you closer. We had at the time, and Claire might have even been there, where we'd invited some people up to a music jam, and of course, you know, we had all the 5 microphones lined up and the synthesizers ready, and there was this enormous thunderstorm. We were like, oh, they won't come, and we were messaging them, don't come, but they all came, and they'd been here for very little time, and the power failed. So we couldn't do a jam session, but we sat around the table with candles all the way up the middle, and I thought we probably did some acoustic music, which was absolutely beautiful. But it was companionable, and what I thought, oh my God, this is a disaster. It was actually a very lovely experience. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. Then you're right. It was just a different but still nice atmosphere with all the candles and
it was quite nice. And I like, that just the idea of all collecting in a small space. But I think that image of them all going out and lighting a light, and other people lighting a light and gathering and meeting each other, I think that's a very nice concept. You know, I think we probably need a bit more about that kind of stuff.